Hey, it's Sarah with Happy Hootie. Today I am going to show you a quick and cheap and easy way to patch small holes in your screens. So we've got these tiny little holes, and mosquitoes love me, but I love sitting outside at night and they find me. So when we have these little holes, I come out here and I just get this packing tape and we pull just the right amount off that's going to cover it. And I get my little scissors and I cut the square. So the trick is making sure you get to both sides. So here I'm able to actually get it. So I'm going to cover that up with this side. And then I'm going to walk on the other side of the deck and I'm going to cover it on that side. And the two pieces of tape will stick together, and that allows it to stay up throughout the time.
Sometimes it's helpful if you got a second person that can apply some pressure to the other side of this cheap fix. Just kind of work it around on there. And although not attractive, it will keep the bugs from coming in. So that's a good quick way to fix some smaller holes. So over time, after you've done some of these little patches like this, if it works out okay, but eventually it starts to look bad, and then eventually you might end up with a giant hole, like one like this, where it's going to be easier just to replace the entire section of screen, and that's what I'm going to show you how to do right now. Some of the basic tools you're going to need do not cost that much money. You can get about 100 foot worth of screen on Amazon, or 125 foot. I've seen a lot of different kinds that there are. This is a 3-foot roll. They come in 4 foot heights, and I think even some bigger heights. I happen to have a 3-foot section here, which is what this is going to work well on. But even if I had the 4-foot roll of screen, you can still use it to patch smaller windows. You just may need to have a different size for do the bigger windows. So this costs about 15 bucks, not that much money. This is called Spline. This is what holds the screen in place. And you would like to be able to reuse the existing spline. If you come in close, I'll show you. This is what the spline looks like when it's in. You'll find it hold there, and if you can kind of get a hold of an edge and pull it, if we can reuse this, we'll just reuse this. But sometimes they're old and they're brittle, and you got to buy some extra one. It's about 8 bucks. So again, not very much money just to have an extra roll of that around to go with that. And then you'll need one of these, which is a screening tool. They cost about 5 bucks, and we'll put the links down below to all these tools in case you're curious about how to get a hold of them for these prices. But the screening tool comes with a notched out edge like this, and it also has a regular straight edge, and that straight edge is going to be used to push the screen in to this crevice, and then once you get your spline lined up, this curved edge will be used to push that spline down into that crack. But to remove it, let's get started with the first step. Get a hold of your spline and just pull it out. This one happens to be, it looks like, in 4 separate pieces. Sometimes they're just one piece that runs around the whole screen. If you get an edge that you can't get the spline out of, you can find a sharp object like a pencil, a pair of scissors, the end of a razor blade, because you're going to need that too, and kind of dig that corner out and kind of get it started to where you can then go ahead and get a hold of that piece of spline and pull that out. We got one more piece over here somewhere. With those 4 pieces out, you should be able to get a hold of the screen, and it should come out fairly easy. Like that. And now we're ready to put the new screen in. This would be so much easier if this was actually a screen on a window, because you could pull it down and do it on the floor. This screen that we had a big torn spot in happens to be on a deck, and I can't remove this piece, so you have to kind of come in close and kind of see what we're doing. You're just going to go ahead and line the screen up along the edge where that channel is, and using this edge of the screen tool, you're just going to go ahead and push this into that crevice like that. And then I'm going to use the piece of the existing spline that we had to go ahead and put that in there and get it started. And then using the channeled side of this piece, tuck that down in there like that. Now, you will have some excess that's hanging off the edge, and when we're all done, we're going to have to go back and cut this off using that razor blade. But now that we've got that one side in, we can go ahead and string this across here like this and put the brand new screen up. Go ahead and stretch it out across to where you need. If you've got a bunch of excess, you can go ahead and use your razor blade and go ahead and cut plenty of extra that you know you're going to have enough just to get this roll out of the way. And then we can set the roll aside, and now you're just working with an easy piece of screen here. So now that I've got that one side, I'm going to go ahead and stretch it out and get it across here to the other side, and I'm going to use my tool here, do the same thing on the other side. And then getting this extra piece of spline here that we've already used, get it put in position. And then again, using that channeled side of this piece, just push that in there like that. You got to make sure this stays fairly taut and fairly tight as you're doing it, because it'll pull the wrinkles out of the screen. We've got both of the sides done. You got to make sure you leave enough room for your upper and lower channels to be able to feed these in. But I've just got the two last pieces here of my spline, and you can see that it's a little bit tight, but there's some areas that are loose, and this is where we're going to kind of work those little kinks out here. I'm going to go to the top piece here, I guess, first. It doesn't really matter. Just kind of felt like doing it. I'm going to curve that in there, and I'm going to put a piece in here and get to my correct side here and kind of push that in and kind of work itself over like that. And you may have to go back and run this over it a couple of times to push it in there. The spline has grooves in it that kind of help hold on like little teeth. Got a little overhang here, we'll cut that off. Cut that off at the end. And then we got to get the bottom. Now this last one, you kind of want to stretch it out and make sure that it's in there as tight as you can get it, because it'll push it a little bit tighter when you get that piece in there. But you don't want to have it too loose. I'm going to start this piece down here and get the final one in. Now that we've got all the way up there, I can feel it, and it's very tight. If you have to go back and push any of this spline in with that tool, you can always do that now. You're going to take a razor blade, just barely pushing down on the edge here. You're going to go ahead and cut, and it's going to cut it apart like that. And that'll give you a nice clean look. And if you need to, if you miss a little bit and got to come back, that's all right. That'll be our little mistake. Nobody has to know. And then we're just going to repeat that on the other side. And there you have it. We've patched this with a brand new piece of screen. It's nice and tight. It's going to keep the bugs out. You're going to end up with a little bit of extra scrap. You know, you can be handy with these, and you can kind of go ahead and cut yourself some little extra patches out of this if you want to. And later on, you can actually use some super glue to put on these, and you can actually use them to patch other holes as they hum, because screens inevitably will get some holes. So that's a good final way if you want a cheap way to have some scrap. Super glue on the back edge of one of these, and you can glue it over whatever size. I don't have goods that are big enough to cover this larger size screen, but as you can see, these bugs have kind of eaten some holes in the upper portion here. I mentioned you can use some extra scrap off of our last job, and just want to make sure that you've got a piece that's big enough to cover the existing piece there. And before I put that up there, I'm kind of just going to go around on it, put a little bit of clear super glue around the outside edge of this. And I'm going to put that on there, like so. And then just using something, use the back side of this super glue thing here, but something else that you've got there just to kind of smear that on there, and it'll dry clear. That'll hold that patch. It'll hold that patch on there, and you'll be good to go. I hope you found all these methods helpful. If you did, please feel free to like and subscribe, and we'll see you here next time.